Have you ever dealt with negative feelings? Have you ever felt like you just wanted to throttle your negative feelings? Doubt, fear, insecurity, depression. Oh, you just want to kill them, right? Well, it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. And today, we're going to talk about why. And we're going to use the new movie that just came out, Star Wars, Rise of Skywalker, to talk about why. And that's kind of why we're here, standing in front of the Hollywood sign, because it was a little busy on Hollywood Boulevard to really have this kind of intimate conversation. So that's why we're here today. Stick it out. If you haven't seen Star Wars, a little bit of a warning, because we're going to talk about the movie and we may spoil a little bit for you. So come watch. Let's learn why you can't just strangle your negative feelings and think that's going to work to make yourself feel better. Check it out. Hi, I'm Brett, your favorite shrink. And thank you. Thank you so much for joining us here at The Gathering. The Gathering is a support group, really. Support group for you to help you grow emotionally, relationally, and spiritually. And basically the idea is that if you really want to get better, if you really want to grow as a person, we got to do it. We got to do it together. And that's what The Gathering is all about, is creating a group of us together where we can get together, support each other to make the personal growth you want. And today, like I said, we're going to talk about how to deal with negative feelings. One of my favorite phrases I've always used is, you cannot hate your way to happiness. Now, the reason why that's one of my favorite phrases is because that's what I always try to do. I always try to take my negative feelings and I just want to hate them away. And it doesn't quite work that way. You can't find happiness through being angry and hating yourself. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And like I talked about, we're going to use the Star Wars movie to talk about that. Now, a little bit of a backup with the Star Wars movie. Back in May of 1977, do you remember that year? It was a good year. Back in May 1977, something really special happened. The first Star Wars movie came out. And me, my dad, my brothers, we all went down to the Mann Chinese Theater to see it in Hollywood. I mean, if you're going to see an epic movie, where else are you going to see it but the Chinese Theater in Hollywood? Well, the last one has just come out, and I just felt like I had to complete the saga. So I flew to LA, took my kid with me, and we went to the Chinese Theater to see the last Star Wars. And I loved it. I mean, it was a really great movie. All that's true. But I loved it psychologically because it really had a lesson to teach us. And the lesson is about how to deal with our negativity. Now, you don't have to be a big Star Wars geek to really get into this video. But I think the metaphors in the video were really useful and helpful. And I want to really play off some of them to help illustrate what I think we all are doing. And that's trying to hate our way to happiness. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the story or you're not the geeky kind of person, I get it. I'm not either. But I want to talk about one particular scene in the movie. I want to talk about really almost the last scene. And this is the big culmination scene. This is where everything is coming together. And in this scene, Rey, our heroine, she is about to cut down Palpatine, the Sith Lord. She's going to slice him in pieces. And he, oddly enough, is quite delighted about the idea. It's like, yes, do it. This is what your destiny is. This is what you're supposed to do. Because when you do that, that is going to be Palpatine talking. That's going to be the final piece that's going to bring you over to the dark side. That's going to solidify in you, Rey, your own darkness. And it's going to make you this great dark Sith Lord. And that's kind of what he's excited about. He's excited about finishing her off and bringing her fully into the dark side. By begging her to give into her anger, give into her rage, and kill him. Well, you can imagine Ray, she's really stuck now because she's like, I've been wanting to do this for my whole life, and now I'm here and I'm ready and I'm able, and you want me to? And that's going to work for your plan? She's super frustrated because the last thing she wants to do is to fulfill Palpatine's plan. I mean, that's the worst thing in the world. But here she is. She doesn't know what to do. Well, interestingly enough, the answer, and you're going to probably hate the answer, but the answer is that you cannot kill anger with anger. 1 + 1 makes 2. One doesn't take away the other, it adds to it. And that's what Palpatine was talking about. So what's the answer? What does she have to do? Well, luckily, at that moment, of course, Ben Solo, who is now converted over to the light side, thank you, Ben, joins her. And somehow, I don't quite understand this. If you guys are Star Wars geeks, let me understand what you're understanding, because I don't understand it. Somehow, them coming together and being a united couple, Palpatine's even joyful about that. And somehow, he takes their unity and connection and draws off of their energy to strengthen himself even more. I don't understand that part of it. That part psychologically, I can't help you with, because it makes no sense to me. But as the story goes, he draws off their energy and they both kind of fall apart. And then at the very, very end of that kind of segment, Ben's kind of pushed off to the side and she's knocked unconscious, Rey is. And at that point, she starts to connect. She connects with all of the Jedis. Now that's the important part right there, because it is connecting to the Jedis, which is what she's been trying to do this whole movie, and through her whole training, is trying to connect with Jedis. When she finally starts to connect with the Jedis, what she finds is this powerful feeling of love and connection, and is joining together with all the other Jedis that gives her this incredible new power, to go ahead and destroy the old power, the Sith power. And the Sith Lord, of course, he says, well, I'm united with all my old Sith, and so it's all the old Sith against all of you old Jedi. Who's going to win? Well, the Jedi win. And with decisive power and force, metaphorically, what I think that's saying is that when you connect with people in love, that creates something greater than the parts. But Sith people, they don't love. They're evil. They're connecting in anger, meaning their anger brings them together, but it doesn't really create a connection. Anger never creates a connection. It may create a unity in force or unity in focus, but it doesn't somehow create something greater. Love does. Love takes us, each of us as individuals, adds us all together and makes something bigger than all of us. And that's exactly what happens. Then in love, she's able to blow him away and end his rule. Now, I disagree a little bit with that part in terms of the story, because you can't get rid of evil in the world. That doesn't work. But for the dramatic purposes of the movie, I understand that. But in the storyline and the idea, all through Star Wars, there's always been this idea that there has to be a balance in the Force. And that's a balance between good and evil. And you can't just get rid of good, or you just can't get rid of evil. There's always going to be balance. So not sure I understood that part. Again, if you're a Star Wars geek and you can help me out on that part, go ahead. But the idea for you and me to apply to our lives is this. You cannot hate your way to happiness. You cannot destroy the negative things, the negative feelings, the negative emotions in your life by using hate and anger. We've talked about before many times about how all of our emotions basically center down to collapse or flow. Negative emotions have collapse in them, meaning that they're high frequency energy waves that are produced from the limbic system, the emotional brain. And because they're high frequency, they're usually in the beta wave category. They feel like the energy inside of us is collapsing, moving inward. If you've ever felt angry or hurt or scared or depressed or confused or just overwhelmed with grief, all of those, what we call negative emotions, all involve collapse. But if you've ever felt anything positive, love, joy, happiness, peace, connection, confidence, all of those emotions produce different brain waves. They produce more in the theta waves in your brain. And the theta waves are much higher, a much longer frequency, not high frequency, low frequency waves. And of course, I can't feel the frequencies within my own body, but I experience them as flow. It feels like the energy is expanding and expansive. Barbara Fredrickson is a great psychologist that talks about love. She wrote a book, Love 2.0, and she talks about positive feelings being expansive and negative feelings being collapsing. So there's some good research actually that's actually showing and looking at the biology in the brain and looking how these different experiences are felt. So here we have collapse, negative emotions. We match it with more collapse and more negative emotions. Of course, it's not going to produce anything positive. But what we see in the movie is that Rey brings flow. She brings love. Love from her, love from Ben, love from all the other Jedis. And when our love, when our positive feelings are more intense than our negative feelings, they do. You know that experience. They do eliminate that. When we felt hugged and nurtured and cared about by a parent, it took away those scared, upset little feelings that we had as a child. It melted them away. And that's the way it works. Flow is what eliminates negative emotions. Now for you, in terms of being really specific in terms of answers, what we have to do is two things to help you eliminate the negativity in your life. If you can't eliminate the negativity with more negativity, then you got to eliminate the negativity with positivity. And two things have to happen. One, the first, is you have to disassociate yourself from your feelings. Meaning you can't identify yourself with those negative emotions. I am depressed. I am anxious. I am hate. I am bad. If you identify yourself with that, there's no way you're going to be able to let go of that because you can't kill yourself. It's not going to work that way. So first thing we have to do is realize that we are not our feelings. We have feelings. I do feel depressed. I do feel anxious. I do feel upset. I do feel traumatized. I feel hurt. I feel those things. But those things are not who I am. If they were, man, I'd be changing who I am every 5 minutes because my emotions change every 5 minutes. So the first thing I got to do is I got to disassociate myself from my emotions. I am not my emotions. And look at our workshop called The Sevens. That first bonus week will actually give you some clues and talk a little bit more in depth about that. So that's on thegatheringofgoodpeople.com. So that's the first part. The second part is that then I have to bring to those collapsed feelings that I've disassociated from love. And that technique, I call it holding. And again, you'll see it in the sevens. Holding is not a lot different than what your parent did for you when you fell down, when you when you were knocked down, when you were feeling hurt and scraped your knee or whatever that was, scared, when your parents would hold you, that holding dissolved that negative feelings. That's the second thing we got to do. We've got to bring love to those negative feelings. So oftentimes what I do is I picture my negative feelings, particularly my feelings of anxiety, as a child. Because if I can see my negative feelings as this little boy who's just scared, who's just hurting, who's just overwhelmed, it's old memories, it's old experiences, they're old neural connections in my brain that have been there for, well, they feel like they've been there forever. And there's some good science that even shows that they're in my genes. I got them passed down from my parents. So I picture those feelings of anxiety as just the scared little boy. And then after I picture that scared little boy, then I bring nurturing to him. And I bring that love. And I bring that holding to him. And I let him know it's going to be okay. And I let him know it's going to be safe. And you're going to be safe. At the very, very end of Skywalker, the Rise of Skywalker, Rey goes back to Tatooine. And she gets rid of these lightsabers. And she hides them basically in where all of it all started, in Luke's old home. And there an old lady comes to her and the old lady says, "Who are you?" And Rey answers, "Rey." And she says, "Rey? Rey who?" And then Rey, because she's never had a last name, she never knew who she was. She was a Palpatine. She was the granddaughter of this evil Sith. Her answer wasn't Palpatine. Her answer was Skywalker. That's so important and significant because what she was doing, like we just talked about a minute ago, was she was identifying herself as love, as light, as the good side of the Force, the light side of the Force. And by owning her identity as Skywalker, she was connecting herself with Luke, this brave young man, and the love that he had in him as he learned about the Force. Thank you so much again for watching this video. If you liked the video, if you hated the video, if you liked the podcast, hated the podcast, I don't care. Make some comments. I would love to hear your voice within our gathering and have you connect with us as part of the gathering. Because we can do this better if we all come together. Thanks again for watching. I'm Brett, your favorite shrink. And we'll talk soon. Take care.